What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my hands-on and first impressions video of the Motorola Moto G Play 2023. Now, this device was recently launched by Motorola and it is factory unlocked and works for all major US carriers. Now, I have linked to it in the video description, so definitely take a look to see the most up-to-date pricing and availability. Now, in addition to being offered factory unlocked, I'm pretty sure that as time goes on, this phone will also make its way over to the actual carriers themselves, and it's possible that if you buy the phone through your favorite carrier, you might get some really solid deals and discounts. So certainly something worth considering. Now, one other thing that I do want to mention is that the Motorola Moto G Play 2023 is only compatible with 4G LTE networks, so there is no 5G compatibility with this device. However, considering that it is meant to be a budget phone, I'm not necessarily that surprised that we don't get that compatibility. Now, before I show you a variety of different things about the Moto G Play 2023, let's see what all comes included here in the box. So here's the box. You can see right there, Moto G Play. The materials of the box are apparently environmentally friendly, which is a pretty cool thing to see. A bit different from other boxes that I've seen from Motorola G series phones in the past, but overall, it is pretty nice looking. And you can see right there, eco-friendly packaging, plastic-free, recyclable, and it does feature soy ink. And then in the box, you'll find some literature. We also have a SIM card removal tool. We get a USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. And then we have a 10-watt USB wall adapter. So I do appreciate that this is 10 watts versus 5 watts. And I also appreciate that we're even getting it included here because nowadays, wall adapters typically aren't even in the box with various phones. But considering that the phone does have a 5,000 milliamp hour internal battery, 10 watts will still take you quite a bit of time to recharge the phone. Now with the Moto G Play 2023, we're getting a very large 6.5-inch display. Now this display is IPS LCD, and what's really awesome about this display as well is that it does feature a 90 Hz refresh rate, so a bit smoother of an experience when navigating around the phone, which does give it a nice premium touch. Now beyond that, the display is 720p, which is a bit unfortunate, but thankfully the display panel itself does look pretty decent. It certainly doesn't look cheap by any means, but keep in mind that you will see some pixels since it is 720p. Now the PPI is 270, we have a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor, and we're getting a 79.7% screen to body ratio. Now in addition to that, you can see here that we do have a hole punch for the front-facing camera, and that front camera is 5 megapixels. Now towards the bottom of the device, we do unfortunately have a bit of a thicker bottom bezel, so keep that in mind. But overall, for a budget phone and a very affordable device, I do feel like it does have a pretty decent design overall. I especially do appreciate that this time around, we are getting that hole punch versus having a water drop notch. Now unfortunately, with this device, we're only getting 32 gigabytes of internal storage. I feel like that's really not that much, and for many people that might not even be adequate. Now, thankfully, we do get micro SD card expansion here with the phone, but again, 32 gigs in 2023 really isn't that much. Now, in addition to that, you can see that at this point, I've already used up 17 gigabytes with 9.4 gigs of that going towards the system, and then 8 gigs going towards apps. Now, I did install quite a few apps myself. However, the majority of the apps in this app section are pre-installed apps. So keep in mind that just after setting up your phone and not even capturing any photos or anything else that fills up space, you're already going to be using up a good portion of that space. Now, for some people, that might not be a big deal, but if you are somebody that's constantly running out of space in your phone, then you might find yourself a bit disappointed with how little of internal storage we are getting here. Now, with this device, there's no wireless charging, which is understandable for a budget phone, but we do have a fingerprint sensor on the back. So we'll give that a try right now. And there we go, nice and quick. Let's try that fingerprint sensor one more time. So very accurate and very reliable. Now, unfortunately, with this phone, there is no face unlock, which I do find to be surprising, and I really wish we did have that, but at least we do have that fingerprint sensor. Now, taking a look at the cameras on the back of the phone, we are getting a triple camera setup with a 16 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera to assist with portrait mode, and we're also getting a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. Now, here's how things look on the camera app. This is with the main camera right now. Then from here, we can go over to the macro camera, and with that, you can get very close up and have things be in really good detail, which is useful in certain situations. We can also head over to portrait mode and get those nice blurred out backgrounds, which is great. We can also flip around and do the same thing with the front-facing camera. So there's me right there, and you can see we have a blurred background. We can also crop out a little bit for a group selfie, and then if you want to, you can also take standard selfies as well. Now beyond that, we have video mode, which allows us to capture 1080p video with the front and rear cameras. And then heading over here to the side, we do have a more option with a few other options here, and then also a pro mode for the camera as well, giving us the ability to make some modifications with the white balance, ISO, and some other things as well. Now with this device, we're getting 3 gigabytes of RAM paired up with the MediaTek Helio G37 processor. Now overall, don't expect to get that great of performance here with the phone. Overall, this phone is best for people that are kind of looking for the bare minimum with a smartphone, but at the same time, they do want a phone that still works. Motorola does create reliable smartphones, so you're not going to run into random unexpected issues, unlike maybe some other budget phones from other brands that are less reputable. But at the same time, don't expect this phone to be that fast. I would definitely only get this phone for phone calls, text messages, occasional photos, occasional videos, maybe also kind of occasional social media usage as well. And for things like watching video content, overall, it will work well for that, as that doesn't typically require too high of a performing smartphone. Now, I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 5, and I'll show you the scores in that test right now. But overall, these are the scores. I got 160 for the single core, and 579 for the multi-core. Now these scores really don't mean anything unless you're comparing it to another device, so what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare these scores to your scores to get a better idea of how the Moto G Play 2023 compares to the phone that you currently have, because you definitely wouldn't want to get this phone if it happens to be a performance downgrade from your current device. Now as I mentioned earlier on in the video, this phone does feature a 5000 milliamp hour internal battery. Now that is fantastic, and you certainly should expect to get very generous battery life out of this phone, definitely a full day if not 2 days of usage. However, with charging capped out at just 10 watts, it will take quite a bit of time to recharge the phone. Now, sometimes 10-watt charging is actually referred to as fast charging, but honestly, I don't find that to be very fast, especially nowadays. Now, the software that we're getting here with the phone is Android 12, and it does feature some small modifications from Motorola, but overall it is a pretty stock experience, and I do like the way that Motorola does their software. They really take the best parts of Android and they leave it as it is. They don't change things just for the sake of changing them, but they do end up adding in some various bonus features, which I'll go into more detail in my tips and tricks video for this phone. Now, unfortunately, there is no NFC with the Moto G Play 2023, so if you do want to use tap and pay to make mobile contactless payments, unfortunately you cannot do that here with this phone. But now that we've gone over a variety of different specifications and different details related to this device, let's take a closer look at the hardware. Now, I already talked quite a bit about the front panel here. It's a very large display, also a very good looking display, especially for an affordable phone like this one, so that's fantastic. And it also is a nice surprise to see that we are getting that hole punch. Now, the phone itself is made completely of plastic besides the display, which is glass. On the left side of the phone, we have the slot for the micro SD card and SIM card. On the right side, we have volume up, volume down, and also the power button. Then up top here, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, noise canceling microphone, and then on the bottom of the device, we have the regular microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the speaker. Then on the back here, we have the camera module, flash, and then also the fingerprint sensor, which doubles as the logo. Now, the back panel of the phone doesn't feature a glossy finish, which I actually do appreciate. So it's a matte finish here, and it doesn't really pick up too many fingerprints, which is great to see as well. However, since this phone is made of plastic, I do recommend pairing it up with some sort of case, just so that the phone gets a bit more longevity out of it, as plastic is prone to get pretty scratched up. But this concludes my hands-on and first impressions video of the Motorola Moto G Play 2023. I'm definitely really excited about this phone, and despite some of its shortcomings, I do still feel like it's a very good value for what it is. Of course, in that under $200 segment, you really can't expect too much, and I feel like this phone does give us some compromises in the right places to overall make it a good value. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're looking forward to my other videos coming up in the future about the Moto G Play 2023. But with all that said, this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next one.